Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Team Training Tuesday. It's also called Applied Neolife. I'm hoping that today's presentation will not be too complicated. I'm so aware that many people have joined the family over the months. And so for those who may have heard these concepts before, it is actually also meant for the new people and the guests. So I hope there are many guests this evening. My name is Essa Zanambasi. I am a medical doctor by training. I'm also a mother, a wife, and a grandmother as well. I'm a very passionate Neolife distributor. The word distributor can be misleading. It simply means somebody who has opted to share the opportunity of Neolife. And that's what we want to do with all the guests. So for the guests, you're welcome. Today we want to talk about stress, anxiety, and depression. The acronym, as you can see there, is SAD, SAD. But I want to approach the topic from an angle that I'm hoping isn't too complicated. And we are also in the month of April, where we have Autism Awareness Month. So in a way, it is a related topic when we talk about autism or the autistic spectrum disorder and what we want to talk about now. But what I love to do is to consider possible root causes. So I have a brand new career called Connecting the Dots. So I would like us to connect the dots together, and in their anxiety and depression and other situations can start to make sense when we get down to the root cause. So let's talk about stress. Stress is, in fact, the body's response to physical, mental, and emotional pressure. And the causes are many, but what happens is that there might be a rise in blood pressure, heart rate, and blood sugar levels also rise because of the release of stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. And stress per se causes feelings of frustration, anger, anxiety, and depression. And it can be reactive, in other words, as a response to events, or it can be due to the ongoing normal life activities that become a bit overwhelming. And in the long term, if it remains sustained for a long time, it can cause mental and physical health problems. So yeah, it's a major issue, but I just also want to put the positive spin on stress. There's an element of healthy stress that will lead us to become motivated to do something. And that's why the first thing in the morning when we wake up and we look at the sun and we look around us, there is actually a surge of cortisol that is designed to give us that healthy stress response that gets us out of bed and gets us going. Then anxiety. That is a feeling of, or feelings of fear, dread, and uneasiness. And it may manifest with physical symptoms such as sweating, muscle tension, and sustained muscle tension to the point where somebody is always tense and the shoulders are up and almost touching their ears, and a sense of restlessness and a rapid heartbeat. And if it is sustained for a long time, it can get labeled or diagnosed as an anxiety disorder. So what are the possible reasons for all that? Causes of health challenges, I think if we consider the controllable factors, mainly from poor lifestyle choices, such as the diet that one chooses to eat, because the fast and convenient foods are very, very low in nutrients. And as we carry on, you'll see why that is important. And then, of course, lack of exercise. We all know that regular exercise is important. It releases calming hormones called endorphins that will counteract those stress hormones. And then working in environments that are heavy on toxins. Some people don't know this, but exposure to household toxins is a constant cause for stress in people's lives, and therefore can lead to health challenges, because if the immune system is taxed 24/7, in other words, all day and all night, then that can cause stress and health challenges. And these days we rely a lot on technology and are exposed to blue light, and therefore our sleep is affected. I'm hoping that we'll finish quickly so that everybody can switch off all the gadgets and allow the system to settle down for a good night's sleep. Apparently, reading a book is a good way to calm down from exposure to blue light. So I just want to point out what epigenetics are. A lot of people have been told that, oh, don't worry, whatever you're suffering from is a genetic disorder, it runs in the family, and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, there are factors, and so let me ask the question right up at the top. What factors lead to gene expression and manifestations of depression and other mental diseases? They are factors, and those are often what we refer to things over and above the genetic factors, and that's what we call the epigenetic factors. So just park that thought for now, and let us look at another definition. What is nutrigenomics? That is actually a study of nutrients on gene expression and also the influence of genetic variation on nutrients. So it's a study that works at seeing how nutrition affects genes and how genetic variations and the effect of nutrients on those genetic variations. So just for your information, right? But it will tie together as we connect the dots. Because I now want to introduce this term called methylation, and it has been studied in nutrigenomics and looking at the epigenetic factors, that methylation is very, very important in the causation of stress, anxiety, depression. But let's carry on with this. What is methylation? Okay, it's the chemistry of carbon in our lives. Carbon chemistry is how we exist. Carbon is a very, very important element, and it combines with other elements to form molecules, which in turn form microscopic cells, which form organs, then they form systems, and ultimately the body. So methylation is this combination of carbon with 3 hydrogens, and then they can combine with other things. So those little molecules, as it were, are transferred over billions of times per second to make millions and millions and millions of chemical reactions in our bodies. So it's a very important group of elements that keep us alive, right? Now, the methyl groups are donated to other molecules and they cause changes in the body's chemistry, either activating or inactivating processes. So one can say it is a form of intracellular communication. It's a method. It's very much like a method of communication. Now, I want us to understand the foundations and then everything will fall into place. But methylation is carbon metabolism that creates life, and it works at a cellular level, and within the cells, it works at the mitochondrial level. Now, you may have heard it said that it is now recognized that disease and the root causes of disease can be traced right down to failure of mitochondria. So where does methylation happen? Where does all that exchange of those methyl bodies happen? It happens in the genetic material, the genes, DNA and RNA. It happens in neurotransmitters. Those are the chemical messengers that convey messages between nerves. It happens in hormones. Those are the ones that are produced in glands and transported in the body. All sorts of hormones. Then it happens within nerves called neurons themselves, and we'll touch on that again. And then cell membranes and their signaling. For example, insulin signaling. Now, insulin is a very important hormone, and on the cell membrane are insulin receptors, and their signaling is very, very important. And now we are seeing that insulin resistance is the cause of a lot of disease or disorders. The biggest being pre-diabetes and diabetes and obesity and everything else that happens. And then in immune cells. So it's important for our immune systems. Enzymes, very, very important for the way we can digest food or break down food. And then in protein, that's a big place where methyl bodies and methylation happens. So throughout the trillions of cells that we are made of, there is methylation happening. So now, why is it important? All right, I did mention that I was trained as a medical doctor. That happened several years ago. In the greater scheme of things, it feels like a long, long time ago. But really, I still remember quite a lot of what we were taught. And conventionally, the way we were taught was that we'd wait for patients to arrive, and then would examine them and make a diagnosis. And then after that, the symptoms that they were manifesting, and I think this is still the practice to this day, would try and deal with those symptoms. Now, I've always had a problem with that. Let me just confess that I've always had a problem with that. And the reason I'm presenting this is because by optimizing methylation, one can be much more efficient in improving health and mental well-being. We've talked about neurotransmitters, we've talked about nerves, we've talked about hormones, okay? So the aim of this presentation is to get us to think that, hey, what can we do to optimize methylation? So one might ask, what happens if I do not methylate well? Well, What might happen is that the genetic material, the DNA and the RNA expression is altered, and this could lead to chronic disease. Then neurotransmitter imbalances may happen, leading to psychological conditions and neurodevelopmental abnormalities or delays. And I started by reminding us that we are in the month of April when we become more aware about autism and attention deficit. And this is in a way carrying on from last week. And then another thing that could happen is that the body's inbuilt detoxification processes become impaired, resulting in buildup of toxins and accumulation of environmental toxins within the body. So that is what happens if one does not methylate well. So let's look at things that regulate methylation. It could be the presence or absence of the required vitamins, the required cofactors, and methyl groups. And then it could also be a build-up of substrates or byproducts, if I can call it that. And as they build up because of poor detox mechanisms, this can lead to negative feedback. In other words, the body says, there's too much of this stuff here, so let us stop the process so that no more is produced, okay? That is very common, and one has to be aware of it. And then also build up of those substrates, the byproducts of the bodily functions, can force them to look for alternative pathways to try and exit the body. And this may cause accumulation of harmful end products in the wrong places and cause disease. So just let your imagination go a little wild with you so that we all understand what our role and responsibility is to our own health. Okay, so how does methylation apply to stress, anxiety, and depression? I have mentioned neurotransmitters, okay? So it is important in formation of neurotransmitters such as adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, serotonin, and melatonin. In other words, imbalances caused by an impaired methylation cycle can lead to symptoms such as insomnia, where one doesn't sleep well, anxiety, depression, stress, and more stress. So it's actually a good time to start asking yourself, what came first? Is it lack of methylation or stress? Well, we can't answer that, but let's see how we can correct it as best as we can. What is required for methylation cycle? Methyl groups from key nutrients such as folate and vitamin B12. That's required. And then one also needs a lot of enzymes. And in order to make those enzymes, the body needs nutrients and all the amino acids that are available, which are 22 of them in human nutrition. And then cofactors, such as minerals, all right? Those are important as well. I've mentioned the minerals I want to highlight are zinc, magnesium, selenium, and chromium. And there are others as well. So I hope for the guests, you're beginning to get an understanding of why we are very, very keen on our nutrition and making sure that we have enough. So I want to highlight some examples of where methylation is super important, okay? And let's start by talking about myelination. And you ask, what is myelination? Well, this is the coating of neurons, the nerve cells, with myelin proteins, very specialized proteins, which stabilize those nerve cells called neurons and enhance electrical signal transmission within us, in our bodies, right? So methylation of amino acids is key in the production of those very specialized proteins called myelin proteins, okay? Impaired methylation can lead to demyelination and result in disorders such as multiple sclerosis and other neurological disorders. I'm beginning to suspect that even dementias are a form of this failure to create those proteins. Then the other one is energy production. That is a very common complaint. People will complain about how tired they are, and myelination, rather methylation now. Remember those methyl bodies that we are talking about, the carbon chemistry, is important for production in our bodies of coenzyme Q10, CoQ10, and mitochondrial fatty acid oxygenation. That is how our cells produce energy. Those are the processes by which energy is produced in our cells. However, when this process is impaired, the result is chronic illness, chronic pain, chronic fatigue syndromes. So we all know that our bodies make the CoQ10, but between the ages of 30 and 50, it has dropped to about 50% of what we require. And yeah, basically we need to find ways of topping up and actually eliminating causes that of reducing it through maybe toxins or inefficient detox mechanisms. Okay, so there are many things to consider. So how does the methylation cycle become impaired? It can be a genetic mutation or genetic mutations that result in impairment. If a single nucleotide polymorphism that we in short call SNPs within the genes that are responsible for the production of the needed enzymes, if those become changed in whatever way, perhaps because of injury to the genetic material or toxicity, okay? This can lead to reduced efficiency and slowing down of the entire methylation cycle. And if you can imagine, it's happening throughout the cells. Also, if there is a chronic deficiency of methyl donors, we've already talked about the B vitamins. If there is a chronic deficiency of vitamin B complex, and one big reason for that to happen is if people are so stressed that they resort to drinking alcohol. That is one way of really depleting the body of those essential vitamins, which are water soluble, so the body cannot store them. Okay. And then lack of other vitamins and minerals that are needed, resulting in low enzyme efficiency, enzymatic efficiency. And then we've talked about environmental toxins, and we need to talk about medications and their interactions, and perhaps the end result of stopping the processes that are required. Okay, so those are ways of how methylation is impaired or can become impaired. So in short, let us take responsibility for our lifestyles. It's always a good place to start. And I like to say, if you are still smoking in this day and age, perhaps it's time to reconsider and to stop. I've just talked about drinking a lot of alcohol. One, I suppose a little bit is okay and not every single day, but some people cannot do without it, okay? And that is where there's a problem. And then the other things like healthy diet, maintaining a healthy weight, doing some exercise, stress management, and of course, we need to supplement. Because of what has happened to the food supply, we cannot say that we get everything that we need from the food. We have to try. I'm not saying that we need to exchange our food for supplements, no, but we need to just make sure that we fill those gaps that are missing. Right. And then there is the whole issue of inflammation. Inflammation is the body's response to anything that brings about irritation, but it needs to be a proper response. And the two processes, inflammation and oxidation, can cause quite a lot of damage if the body has no mechanisms for resilience. So we tend to fear inflammation with good reason, but unfortunately, we are trained to try and stop the process instead of managing the process. And let me give you an example of what can cause high inflammation. The diet, a highly inflammatory diet. As you can see in this picture, it is full of highly processed foods, highly preserved foods, some alcohol, lots of sugar, lots of colorants, colorings in the foods, like all these blue colors and purple colors and artificial colors, all the preservatives in the nitrates. And we seem to have drifted away from the low inflammation foods. And just that alone can cause the stress that we are talking about today. So that is a good place to start, looking at what the diet is composed of. But now let us pause a little bit and decide that we can explore other things, okay? So I hope for the guests, you are ready to take charge of your life and your future. So we just have a few sayings such as success occurs when your dreams are bigger than your excuses. And that's what we want to show you. So we hope everybody here has big dreams, and old ways won't open new doors, but I believe that by going back to the basics that work, we can open amazing new doors. And so let's just go on this journey and meet the Scientific Advisory Board. I call it the real Neolife difference, in that we have a board of scientists who have ensured that we understand fully that we can get good nutrition to solve a lot of our health problems, and in fact, to prevent those health problems. Okay, so that's why I thought this was a neat saying, eat your medicine. And I just want to introduce the founder, Dr. Arthur First. He was a top toxicologist and pharmacologist, and he came to Neolife. Neolife had already been established in 1958. He arrived in the 70s and established this board of scientists. Some of them are newer than when he was still with us. And they make sure that everything that we have is based in nature and backed by science. So you can rest assured that we are privileged to be at the leading edge using pharmaceutical grade supplements that are known as nutraceuticals, in that they are made out of real food. And these can often unfreeze biochemical reactions to restore and enhance optimal health. Now, for the guests and for all of us that are already excited about this opportunity, I hope you can see that you are in the right place at the very right time. And why we say that is that the foundation product was designed to feed our cells, ensure good detoxification as there is good nutrition happening as well. And we've pointed out that if there's a failure here, then the methylation cycle can be hampered. So what we are urging ourselves is to consistently provide the tools. And once you do that, one gets on top of the physical needs of the body to have working methylation cycles. And these are sort of like the foundation products. But let's talk about others that are important. Methyl donors, we've talked about vitamin B complex. You have lipotropic factors such as folic acid and other B vitamins. Those are so important for the process of methylation. And I remember I have somebody who asked me how to manage his blood pressure. I pointed him in the direction of lipotropic adjunct and omega-3 because he was on quite a small budget. Then he came back later on and said, you know, I didn't want to tell you this, but I had very severe anxiety attacks and they seem to have been helped as well. So that sort of reassured me that by supplying methyl donors, the added benefit is that anxiety and stress can be managed. We've talked about CoQ10, which becomes depleted with the passage of time. And so that is for those who need to expand your product usage, it's a good one to add. Then minerals are very, very important. They are cofactors in the methylation cycles. Zinc is important in enzymes, and magnesium is also very important in the working of the mitochondria. And then, of course, multi-mineral is an excellent product that I would urge you all to use regularly. And then, of course, aloe vera, great for stress. Right, now I just want to add a few things. And that's why I wanted to invite the youngsters as well. But anyway, what is on the screen now is the herbal alternatives. I just wanted to pair them with aloe vera. And remember, one source of stress is the environment. But I invited young people to come and understand that the big Neolife difference is one of the solutions to a huge problem, and that is that one of financial stress. So ask yourselves, how are your finances looking? And are you ready to look at a way to solve that and really put it to rest? Yes, you as a youngster and older people as well. I'm not just targeting the youngsters, but it is important to start early. You know, you have big dreams, like this young gentleman is dreaming that one day he will have a blissful time, perhaps travel, have a family. So our encouragement to everybody on this call is that you really, really can build your own business by coming to the family as a distributor, somebody who wants to share. Because this is a saying by Nelson Mandela. He said that money won't create success. The freedom to make it will. And that's what this opportunity offers. And you can potentially be an employment maker. You become your own employer and you cease to seek for employment, because in this day and age, that is one of the reasons that there's a lot of stress and anxiety and indeed depression as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, the reason I'm talking like this at this time of the month, as we draw to the end of April, is that if you haven't had a serious look at this opportunity, perhaps it is time to do so. Because we are not just about selling products. I've given you a lot of background about why we need the products and how they in fact help with a lot of issues. But we are on a mission of not just flogging products and selling products and running around, making sure that we make lots of money, but we actually agree with what Zig Ziglar said. He said, you don't build a business, you build people, and then people build the business. So this is what we call the wheel of life, where you consider all those aspects of your life and make sure that the wheel is well balanced. And when you do that, you will realize that in this family, all these areas become fully balanced as you participate in what the family has to offer. And so everybody starts at the bottom, everybody starts at the beginning. It's very much like a baby. No baby is born as a mature adult. Everybody starts at the very beginning and grows through the rungs, the stages. And we are now encouraging you to get to director and then develop other directors. And on the right, you will see that there is an earning potential. I started at executive manager, where you will be earning about $200 or more. The figures in red are in rand. And then as you climb up, developing other people. Remember, Zig Ziglar is saying that you develop people and then people build the business. Yes, that is what happens indeed. And there is no better way of managing stress than making sure that you are securing your future. You will never change your life until you change something you do daily, ladies and gentlemen. The secret of your success is found in your daily routines. And it is also true that you can go down alone, but you can't go up alone. So belong to a team. And there's no better team right now. And those of us who know these two gentlemen in the picture, I think they're our mentors. This is Jerry Brassfield and Charlie Bolton. We are looking forward to being with them in about 2 weeks' time. And we would encourage all of us to be part of this team. And for those of you who are visitors, we look forward to welcoming you to the family. So you have a decision to make. Don't let small minds convince you that your dreams are too big, because that is often said. And even Jerry himself tells the story of how his dad tried to discourage him, all right? But don't let anybody tell you that. So turn to the person that invited you and ask for information on how to get started in the family, this family on a mission to make the world healthier and happier. You know, we can all pull together to be free of unhealthy stress, anxiety, and depression. I believe we can. I really, really believe we can. So let's not give up. There's exactly 1 week to the end of the month. So great things take time, but if done consistently, they indeed happen. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to stop the share so that I can get out and open it up for discussion if you would like to discuss.